When you hear about all this stuff happening in the Pacific, rising tensions, it's
Yeah.
kind of easy to feel overwhelmed.
Hmm.
But today we're going to try to break it down and make sense of it all a little bit
Okay.
with a recent development.
Okay.
So we're deep diving into this article from the Jakarta Post from November 25th,
Right.
and it's titled U.S. Drawing Up Contingency Plans for Taiwan Emergency.
Oh, interesting.
So we want to explore what those plans might mean,
Yeah,
particularly for Japan and the Philippines.
for sure.
Um, and what's interesting to me is how specific some of these plans actually are.
Yeah, what's interesting here is how we're not just talking about like vague strategies,
Right.
We're actually looking at possible troop movements, equipment,
Yeah.
the whole shebang.
So let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
The article mentions a joint operation plan
Uh-huh.
that the U.S. is working on with Japan,
Okay.
which is set to be finalized this December.
Hmm.
So what exactly are they planning?
Well, the plan outlines the deployment of a U.S. Marine regiment,
Okay.
and they would be equipped with HIMARS.
HIMARS.
Yeah, that's the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System
Okay.
along Japan's Nansei Islands.
The Nansei Islands.
Now, these islands are crucial because they form a chain
Okay.
that stretches southwest from Japan. It actually gets pretty close to Taiwan.
So if I'm picturing this right in my mind,
Yeah,
putting HIMARS on these islands would give the U.S. a big advantage in the region.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
HIMARS are known for their long-range precision strikes,
Mm-hmm.
meaning they could potentially target Chinese forces from very far away.
Oh, wow.
So it really kind of shifts the balance of power quite a bit. And
Mhm.
the plan doesn't stop there.
Uh-oh.
If things get more intense, the U.S. might even set up these temporary bases on the island,
Really?
which would solidify their presence even more.
That's a pretty bold move.
It is.
What about the Philippines?
Oh, yeah.
What role do they play in this?
So the U.S. Army is planning to deploy long-range fire units in the Philippines as well.
Hmm.
So this kind of creates a pincer movement almost,
I see.
with forces positioned both to the north and south of Taiwan.
Well,
And of course, it's not just about the U.S.
right.
The article highlights Japan's important role in providing logistical support.
Logistical support.
Yeah, so think like fuel, ammunition,
Okay.
basically all the essential things to keep those U.S. Marines running.
I see.
Yeah,
That sounds like a carefully coordinated strategy.
it does.
But I can't imagine China's too happy about any of this.
Right.
So what's been their reaction so far?
As you might expect, Beijing is not thrilled.
Yeah.
They've come out pretty strongly, restating their stance on Taiwan, that it's a part of China, inseparable,
Okay.
and condemned these plans as a serious provocation.
So they see this as a direct challenge to their territorial claims then?
Absolutely. From their perspective, this isn't just a military exercise.
Right.
It's a direct threat to their core interest. They're framing this as a destabilizing move that really risks the peace and stability of the whole region.
Yeah, this seems to fit into a larger pattern we've been seeing
Mm-hmm.
of escalating tensions between the U.S. and China.
For sure.
We're seeing a lot more military buildup from China,
Right.
increased pressure on Taiwan.
Yep.
And the U.S. is responding by strengthening these alliances.
Yeah.
And upping their military presence.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see all of this heading?
It's a really complex and concerning situation, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to remember this isn't happening in a vacuum or anything. We've seen this increased Chinese military activity,
Yeah.
both in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea,
Mm.
which really just complicates things.
So what you're saying is this contingency plan,
Yeah.
it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Precisely. It's a puzzle where it seems like all the pieces are moving towards a potential conflict.
Right.
And that's what makes this so worrisome, to be honest.
Yeah.
Brings up a lot of questions,
Like what?
especially for Taiwan.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it from their perspective.
Okay.
Does knowing that the U.S. has these contingency plans make them feel more secure? Does it bolster their confidence,
Yeah.
Or could it actually embolden them even more
Well-
and push them towards, formally declaring independence,
Right.
which could then trigger a response from China?
Oh, God.
It's a really delicate balance.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And what about Japan and the Philippines?
Right.
They're basically being pulled into this potential conflict zone
Mm-hmm.
by agreeing to these deployments.
Yeah.
So what are the risks for them?
Both countries have a lot at stake here.
Huh.
Japan has all this historical baggage,
Okay.
and they have ongoing territorial disputes with China.
Oh, right. In the East China Sea?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for the Philippines, the South China Sea is a major flashpoint.
Right.
By agreeing to these deployments, it's like they're putting themselves on the front lines
Yeah.
of this potential U.S.-China conflict.
And that's a gamble
Huge gamble.
with huge consequences
Oh,
for their own security and economic interests.
Absolutely. They have to weigh the benefits of having this close alliance with the U.S.
Right.
against the potential risks of making China angry
Yeah.
because they're such a powerful neighbor with growing economic and military influence.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It is.
For sure.
This deep dive has really been eye-opening
Yeah.
about how precarious the situation in the Pacific really is.
It is.
And this article from the Jakarta Post, it gives us a glimpse into the U.S. perspective.
Right.
But it makes you wonder how other countries in the region, how they see all this.
That's an important thing to consider. You know, you have countries like Australia, South Korea, even India.
Right.
They're all watching this very closely. They have their own interest,
Of course.
their own relationships with both the U.S. and China to consider.
It's like this giant chessboard where every move has all these ripple effects across the region.
And this isn't just about regional power dynamics either.
Okay.
This has global implications.
Okay.
Like, imagine what could happen to global trade and economics if there's a conflict in the South China Sea.
I can see how that would be a major concern.
For sure.
It's a vital shipping route for like most of the world's goods.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Supply chain disruptions, potential economic sanctions, the effects on energy markets.
Right.
A conflict in this region would send shockwaves through the whole global economy.
This is a situation with like incredibly high stakes then.
Incredibly high.
For everyone involved. What stands out to you as the most concerning part of all of this?
I think for me, the thing that worries me the most is that there's just not enough clear communication between these main players, you know?
Yeah.
And when things are so tense like this, miscalculations, misinterpretations, they happen so easily.
I see.
Things could escalate so quickly.
Right.
Even if it was an accident, you know?
Oh, wow. So what you're saying is even if no one wants a war,
Exactly.
it can still happen.
Yeah.
Just because of like a communication breakdown.
Oh, exactly. That's why it's so important right now.
Okay.
That there's dialogue and diplomacy, you know, building trust and understanding between the U.S. and China.
Yeah.
That's what's going to keep this whole thing from getting out of control.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of how dangerous things are
It's serious.
in the Pacific right now.
It is.
It's not just about military strategy or territorial disputes.
Right.
It's really about
Yeah.
the future of like global stability,
Yeah.
security for everyone.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for everyone to be informed.
Right.
Not just governments and policymakers, but everyone. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what does all this mean for you, the listener?
Good question.
Well, we've tried to lay out the facts here.
Yeah.
We've explored some different perspectives, and I think we've highlighted just how serious
For sure.
the consequences could be.
Yeah.
So as you continue to follow this unfolding story, we just want to leave you with this question.
Okay.
What do these contingency plans signal about the future of U.S.-China relations?
Big question.
And how could this impact the global landscape?
Good stuff.
It's complicated. There's no easy answers.
Nope.
But just by staying informed,
Yeah.
engaging in these discussions,
That's right.
I think we can all contribute
Absolutely.
to a more peaceful and stable future.
I agree.